Okay, welcome to block 8 for Plum Fusion. We are going right along and we are having a lot of fun. I hope we're having fun. I'm having fun. One of the interesting things, of course, is after you do your sample, you're just kind of plowing through the quilt, and then when you come back and I start doing the demos and such for teaching, it's revisiting the quilt again, and a really pretty quilt and a fun way to put together, and it's very exciting. Okay, so again, we are changing the size of the blocks. These are not our standard sized flying geese. We are going to make 4 flying geese, but these are littler flying geese, tinier flying geese than the previous ones. These are 2 by 3.5. 2 by 3.5. So we're going to start with a 4.5-inch square of number 1, and number 7 we're going to have 2 5/8 squares, 4 of them. So we're going to do our same flying geese method though. Lay them on there, mark your center, sew on either side, cut them in half. From here, you're going to press these down, put your square on there, mark the center, sew either side, cut them in half, and then you're going to trim the same method, but our measurements are going to be 3.5 by 2. Okay, 3.5 by 2. So again, I always start lining my V up with the diagonal lines, and I'm going to trim. I'm going to turn this over, line up the left side with the 3.5. Make sure those points are landing where they want to be, and then trim. So you'll be making 4 of these flying geese, because the center is going to be a star block. So flying goose, and then on the sides you're going to put 2-inch squares and put your center block together. Okay, now your center block here is a 6.5-inch square. Okay, so that's your step 1. Put that on the side. Second step, a little more exciting. When you are looking at the instructions, we are looking at fabric 2 and fabric 11. It's asking you to cut 2 squares and then cut them into quarters. Please do not make this cut. You don't have to. What you can do instead is put these 2 squares together as half square triangles. So I'm going to have a fabric 2 and a fabric 11. I'm going to mark my center. I'm going to sew on either side. I'm going to cut them apart, and I'm going to get 2 half square triangles. Okay, so total 4 of these. You're going to take that and you're going to cut them in half. Okay, so you're going to have 8 of these. Your fabric number 12 is your rose fabric. You do not have to fussy cut. Yay! You just cut your squares and you cut them in half. No fussy cutting, no finding the center. We just want triangles. We're going to take these and sew these together. So you have your rose fabric and your halves. Now when you do this, you are going to get opposite sides, and that's what you want. This is the same side. Okay, sorry, I will show you opposite sides, and that is what you want. You will end up with 8 of these. We are going to trim them to 3.5 by 3.5, and when you do this, you do want to trim from the center. So I mark, this is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know if I've shown you guys this. Okay, so on my Creative Grids ruler, I have this line that runs into the corner, the 45-degree angle. When I square, or sometimes when I am cutting, trimming, I will take a piece of tape and run it from one point to another. In this case, it's 3.5 to 3.5. So if I am trimming out using this method, I could do that, right? I'm going to line the tape up on this seam. I'm going to line this up on this seam, and I can trim my 3.5 by 3.5. In this case, because I've already pressed these out, when I do my 3.5 here and I have my opposite 45-degree angle, this is my center, that's my picot, that's where I'm going to drop into the middle, check out my diagonal, and trim. Flip it over, and then trim again to the 3.5. But what's really nice is I know that these have to end on the corners, and it's a good reference to always come back to that 3.5 inch point. Okay, so I am trimming these out. I have 8 of them, and like I showed you before, because they're opposites, we are going to be sewing them together like this. So I have 4 of these already made. 2, 3, 4. These are the sides of our block. And for our corners, we are just going to do some half square triangles. Okay, and we're going to do our usual method of half square triangle, where we have 2 squares, mark the middle, sew on either side, cut apart, and these are going to be squared to 3.5 by 3.5. And like I, showed you previously, to trim these, you can use that line that I've already put on my ruler, run that 3.5 by 3.5 on the seam, and trim, and you only have to do 1 trim before you press open to get a 3.5 by 3.5 half square triangle. I'm missing one of these. I knew that. Okay, so we're going to start with our center, which we've already put together, our little star. Then we are going to put these on the sides here. We are going to put our half square triangles with the centers colored in for the top and the bottom. We're going to sew those to the sides. These are done in sets, and I've lost the other one. This always happens, and it's like this bizarre world where I know I made 4 because we've been making them in sets, and one goes like AWOL, just completely AWOL. Anyway, just like the other block, ready, you can also switch these around. And now you have this light zigzag in the middle. One of the other things you can do is you can also turn these over. And you can make some different configurations with just turning and playing with the outside edges of your block. And I recommend you do this just to see if there's something that you like better. So what I would do in a case like this is I would manipulate the block and have it up on my design wall and step back and look at it and say, do I like this or do I not? And play with it, because that's what quilting is. It's playing with fabric, and this is why we do it, because we love to play. Okay, Month 7, month 8 videos done. Yay! We will see you next month. Have a good one.